Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. I'm here to break down UFC 303 going down this Saturday in Las Vegas. The headliner, the main event, is the rematch between Alex Pereira defending his belt versus Jiri Prochazka. Again, this is a rematch. It's happened already. The champ, Alex Pereira, knocked out Jiri Prochazka in the second round in their last fight. This fight was supposed to be the Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler card. There were some fights that pulled out or dropped from this card, and the UFC had to scramble and make a new event, and they added a new fight, which is now the co-main event of this card. And UFC is scrambling last minute to make this new main event, which I think is probably the best possible outcome of this whole thing. But yeah, before I get into the card breakdown of UFC 303, I do want to just recap the UFC Saudi Arabia that just happened last week. I have to point this out because there's no way that people were that high on Aliskerov beating Robert Whittaker. No one was going to tell me that. You guys are crazy for going in on Aliskerov thinking he was going to get the Reaper out of the octagon and winning by knockout. That's probably some of the easiest money you're going to get this year is betting. Hopefully someone betted and put some money on that Robert Whittaker finish because, again, that's just easy money. The man was like minus 150 and against a guy who's fighting a guy who went from like Phil Haas to fighting Robert Whittaker, stuff like that. So the jump in competition was huge for Aliskerov, and I think that same result would have happened if it was a full camp. Again, the skill set is nice, but we have to be real with ourselves with that jump in competition. So you guys are crazy. I can't believe a lot of people were that big on Aliskerov. So I have to say that. I did pick Robert Whittaker to win that fight by finish, and look what happened. Anyways, let's get to UFC 303. I'm going to start from the bottom of the card and kind of work my way up to the main event. We got Ricky Simón versus Vinicius Oliveira. The men's 135 bantamweight division. My pick is going to be Ricky Simón. I see a lot of people very high on the underdog here in Oliveira. Oliveira does have the power. He does have the finish ability to get this done on the feet with the striking. This is his second fight, I believe, in the UFC. Oliveira is coming off his debut where getting the knockout in the third round, but also getting contender of the year for knockout of the year. The flying knee was insane. But to know that his power is still there in the end of the fight in the third round, it is worrisome. Again, Ricky Simón, I feel like he uses all of his tools, the striking into the wrestling. I think his wrestling is his best tool in this fight. He is going to want to get the takedowns and get this to the ground. But even on the ground, Ricky Simón loses position a lot. I don't know if that's just due to just lack of awareness on the ground, this and that, or maybe his competition level is just aware and that good when he gets to the ground. But again, he does lose the top position a lot when he does get to the ground. So I'm not mad at people going with Oliveira. I will be going Ricky Simón in this fight by decision. I just think Ricky Simón is going to put on a pace on Oliveira with the striking, not the striking, but with the wrestling. He's going to be very, very annoying. I just kind of see him being annoying with the takedowns and kind of being in Oliveira's face and not letting him breathe. But again, with that, Ricky Simón does tend to get ahead of himself when it does come to the pace of his own fights, because there are times where he would kind of die out. So it is a little bit worrisome, but I am going to go the vet here. I am going to go with the experience. I am going to go with the better wrestler and he kind of puts his striking and mixes his wrestling in better than Oliveira. So yeah, I am going to vet with Ricky Simón to win by decision. Next fight we have the UFC debut of Rai Tatsura versus Carlos Hernandez, the men's flyweight division. Tatsura is looking like a huge favorite. I mean, minus 500. It's kind of crazy for your UFC debut. He is coming off the road to the UFC, and one thing about those guys, with the road to the UFC guys, the talent is okay. I'm not gonna say that they're the best. I would say that they're like on the lower level of like, Dana's Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter, and then you have the road to the UFC. So that would be my tier where I rank. But with this kid, I mean, he's 22 years old, making his UFC debut, and the grappling and the jiu-jitsu is insane. Just the tape that I've watched, I did watch his fight to get into the UFC. But the man is relentless with the takedowns, the jiu-jitsu obviously, but he does do a great thing. He doesn't just lay and pray with the takedowns. He's very active on the ground with ground and pound or his own submissions, looking for all types of submissions. So he's constantly working, which is great to see. But one thing I don't like about Tatsura here is he doesn't put anything behind his takedowns. He kind of just shoots. I know some of his timing on the takedowns are great, but when you don't put out a jab or you don't put out something in front of what's coming behind the takedown, it kind of gets predictable. And someone like Carlos Hernandez, who has fought his good share of grapplers, can probably see that coming from a mile away. So that is the downside to the wrestling and getting this fight to the ground for Tatsura. But I don't know. I'm still kind of high on his jiu-jitsu and what I've seen. I think what I said about Ricky Simón in that fight, I think Tatsura, that's the way for Tatsura to kind of win this fight, is kind of just be overwhelming with crowding the space, closing distance, and not letting Carlos Hernandez breathe, not letting him get his distance to get off his striking. Tatsura just has to just crowd the space, close distance, work in the clinch, and kind of work for takedowns and just kind of see what he can snatch up submission-wise. Like I said, Carlos Hernandez has had his share of grapplers in a small time in the UFC, but he will outstrike Tatsura. So that is his kind of, I think, stuffing the takedowns and working with the striking is Carlos Hernandez's way of winning this fight. I'm going to go with the young up and coming debutant here in Rai Tatsura to kind of get this win. I'm going to go with the second round submission for Tatsura. I just think he's going to be relentless with grappling, takedowns, and he's eventually going to find something. Carlos Hernandez doesn't do that great of defending submissions. He does kind of leave his neck exposed, but I can see Carlos Hernandez getting tired and Tatsura kind of finding something to snatch up. So give me Tatsura to win his first UFC fight. Next up, we have the OG Andrei Arlovski going against Martin Buday. Arlovski is 45 years old, and I think his time is coming as far as retirement in the UFC. This man has been around forever. I've been a fan of his since him and Tim Sylvia, that rivalry back in the day. Kind of like they were like the stars back in the day. UFC when I started watching. Andrei Arlovski, Tim Sylvia, that rivalry was dope. So it's just crazy to see him in 2024 still doing the damn thing against, and it's not someone young, but still kind of a bottom tier guy in the heavyweight division, and in Martin Buday. And that's kind of what Andrei Arlovski is kind of like the gatekeeper right now in the heavyweight division, is fighting these lower tier, bottom of the barrel talent heavyweight fighters. So, and he's kind of done great. I mean, beating Jay Collier, Vandera, Carlos Felipe, Chase Sherman. So he has had a 4-fight win streak as of 3 years ago and kind of into 2 years ago. So he's not completely out of it at 45 years old, Andrei Arlovski. But he is coming into this fight on a 3-fight losing streak, getting submitted, getting knocked out, and losing to decision. But Martin Buday, he's a big heavyweight. Like, he's going to push that limit of the heavyweight division. Come into this fight maybe like 265 maybe. Arlovski's always been on the lighter, slimmer side of the heavyweight division. So Martin Buday is going to want to kind of clinch, get Andrei Arlovski against the cage, and kind of just hug him. Probably just hold on to him and slow down Andrei, because Andrei is going to be the lighter fighter here. He is going to be kind of using his footwork. He's probably going to be all around the octagon, sticking, moving, and plotting here and there to throw some strikes, and then kind of just get out of reaching distance of Martin Buday. But I think Buday, he's going to use his weight to kind of wear on Andrei Arlovski as much as he can, hold him, clinch him against the cage, and kind of just make this an ugly fight. Again, heavyweight fights are not always pretty, but most of them are pretty ugly. But Martin Buday kind of just thrives in that ugly state of heavyweight fights. But the last time Martin Buday fought kind of like the lighter side of a heavyweight fighter, he did win by decision. And I'm talking about where's this fight at? It was like one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in my life. Anyways, he got outstruck. I can't believe the judges gave that fight to Martin Buday. But anyways, I just think Andrei Arlovski is going to pick his shots, kind of move around the cage, kind of use his 245 frame and his weight to kind of move around the cage, and it's going to make it hard for Martin Buday to kind of find him, and he's going to do a lot of chasing, and I don't think he's going to be chasing that long. I think he's going to get tired. Martin Buday does want to get this fight to the ground maybe, but it's going to be hard for Martin Buday to get a hold of Andrei Arlovski. So I'm going to go the OG here. I'm going to go the 45-year-old Andrei Arlovski to get a win here. And maybe if he wins, he calls it quits and retires here at UFC 303. I'm sure Andrei Arlovski is tired of fighting in the Apex. So he's finally on a big card. Even though it's on the prelims, he's still getting a crowd. So I'm not that high on Martin Buday. I'm not. He doesn't have that power in his hands. I just think Andrei Arlovski is just going to be too fast, too agile. And I think he has seen enough. Andrei Arlovski has seen enough. I don't think Martin Buday gets this to the ground. I think Andrei Arlovski makes it hard to get this fight to the ground. I think the defense is there for the takedown. The takedown defense is there for Arlovski. So, yeah, give me that plus 215 that I'm seeing right now for Andrei Arlovski to win this fight by decision. Next fight, we have Michelle Waterson against Jillian Robertson. And, again, it's kind of like an OG of the division against kind of an up-and-comer. Waterson is 38 years old, coming off a a few, like a 3-fight losing streak here, maybe more. 4-fight losing streak coming into this fight against Jillian. Again, Robertson's coming to this fight. She just won by TKO against Polyana Viana. I don't know how much that tells me because I think Viana has good striking, but I think she's there for the easy takedown. The striking is good, obviously, but Jillian was just there to just easy takedowns, easy just to get Viana to the ground and ground and pound her out. So, I think a lot of people are really high on Jillian Robertson in this fight. Again, the jiu-jitsu is serious. She does hold the record for the most submissions in the women's strawweight division. But for me, it's hard to get a read on Jillian. I know the jiu-jitsu is there, but I feel like Waterson has the skill set to kind of make this an interesting fight. Waterson is very heavy with the kicks. She's side kicks. Again, very active with the kicks. She's that side kick to kind of create space. The punches are okay, but I think her punches look better than Jillian Robertson's punches. Jillian's stand-up is a little bit green still. But I do like the activity of Michelle Waterson. But again, if she's going to throw kicks, that is kind of like a jiu-jitsu or a wrestler's dream of, yes, give me that. I'm going to catch that leg and I'm going to take you down. But with that, Jillian Robertson's wrestling is not that great. Again, she's going to want to grab you, kind of, I just don't think her wrestling is that good. She does her best when she's in the clinch, has her hands on you, and just kind of snatches up a limb. But I don't think Waterson is a slouch on the ground either. So I like the takedown defense of Michelle Waterson. I like the activity on the feet. I like what I think. I think Waterson can hold her own on the ground as well. Even though I know Jillian is that person and she's that girl on the mat, I just think the people that Jillian Robertson has beaten in her last few wins, they're just terrible on the ground. And I don't think Waterson is that terrible. I think she does have some game that we haven't seen. I know she's getting subbed. Waterson has. She's getting subbed, but who's she fighting? She's fighting higher level, top-ranked girls in the strawweight division. And Jillian Robertson's kind of still fighting out, top 20, top 25 women's strawweight. So the level of talent, the resumes, and the names who these girls are fighting are not that comparable. Waterson has fought. She's been through the trenches with some of the best in this division. So I'm going to go the dog. I'm going to go Michelle Waterson. I think she's in I don't know about – I don't know what she's doing in camp. I don't know how she's feeling. I did watch her interview on Media Day. She seems like in great spirits, but she always does, right? She always seems like she's in a good headspace. She's just that vibrant, happy person. But I just like I like the skill set. I like the skill set, and I like how her skill set looks against a Jillian Robertson skill set. So I'm going to go the Karate Hottie. I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson to get this win by decision. I know, man. 2 dogs in a row, and they're OGs, but it is what it is. Next up, we have Peyton Talbot versus Giannis Gamori. Peyton Talbot, I saw this line at like minus 2,000 yesterday, which is probably the biggest line I've seen in a card in UFC history. I've never seen a fighter with that big of a favorite next to their name. But is the hype real? I love what I see from Peyton Talbot. The skill set is there. The striking is there. He has the way he fights kind of reminds me of Sean O'Malley, a very relaxed, just a free flow type striker, very accurate with his kicks, his punches. The man is dangerous, and I think he gets Giannis Gamori out of here in the second round. I think Gamori can have a good, okay-ish first half of the first round and kind of survive until the first round is over. And I think Payne Talbot puts it on heavy in the second round and gets him out of here in the second round. I think Payne Talbot, I was hoping that Payne Talbot would kind of be higher on this card. I do want the eyes and the audience to kind of be. I just want to see. I just want them to see the talent that this kid has. The talent is there, and I'm hoping after this win we kind of see him get a more, just build him up slowly, get his names, get his resume looking right before he starts jumping into these bigger fights with these bigger names in the men's 135 division. The men's bantamweight division is always going to be stacked, man, and it's just they got another prospect in Payne Talbot just in there working his way up. So yeah, Payne Talbot by second round TKO KO. Next fight we have Charles Air Jourdain versus Gene Silva. This one was tough for me. I came into the week with Gene Silva as my pick. Charles Jourdain is very hard to get a read on for me. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but Charles Air Jourdain is he's kind of hard to get a rhythm for. He's hard to get a read for. He's coming off that weird decision against Sean Woodson where they announced Sean Woodson as the winner. But I think people heard it as Charles Jourdain, so Jourdain was celebrating while Sean Woodson was like, "Oh, I lost." So he was walking out of the cage, and then DC was like, "No, bro, you won." And then all the feelings kind of switched and mixed up, and so yeah, that was weird. But Jourdain struggled with the length of Sean Woodson. Let's see. But even before the Woodson fight, he had coming off a two fight win streak. But Gene Silva hits hard, man. He has great power in the hands. I think he can make make this fight really interesting if he can start working the jab early on Charles Jourdain. And he's coming off the Weston Wilson knockout. But even though Weston Wilson just got his first win in the UFC, but before that, Weston Wilson was getting knocked out by everybody in the first round. But, Gene Silva, he can make this fight very interesting. But I am going to go the Canadian. I'm going to go the more experienced UFC fighter here. This is Gene Silva's sophomore outing in the UFC, so I didn't see much from the Weston Wilson win. But this might be my last time I go Charles Jourdain for a pick, man. Because I went with him against Sean Woodson. It's hard for me to get a read on Charles Jourdain. If he can just put it together, Charles Jourdain can win this fight. Give me Charles Jourdain by split decision here. Next up, we have another OG on this card. 40-year-old Cub Swanson against Andre Fili. Cub Swanson coming off that, again, kind of like a robbery decision against Hakeem Dawodu. Or Dawodu, sorry. But I think Andre Fili kind of uses his length to kind of stay on the outside. He does have a 4-inch reach advantage in this fight against Cub Swanson. I can see Cub kind of making this interesting fight, but I see Andre Fili winning at least 2 clear rounds and 1 round maybe being competitive, where Cub is kind of looking like maybe the first round is competitive, where Cub is the freshest, and Andre Fili kind of taking over from there, gaining confidence with the striking. Maybe we see some groundwork from these two. We see him on the mat. But I like Andre Fili kind of everywhere in this fight, and it's no punch or jab at the age of Cub Swanson, but I just kind of think his better days are behind him. And even though Andre Fili has kind of had a roller coaster of a MMA UFC career, I just like Andre Fili to kind of get back in the win column and use his striking, stay on the outside, and kind of pick apart Cub Swanson. So again, give me another decision win. Give me Andre Fili to win by decision. The feature prelim of UFC 303, and if you are still here, hopefully I do enough to earn your sub this react or this. Hopefully I've done enough to earn your sub with this breakdown so far. But let's get into this fight. The featured prelim is Joe Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Man, I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer to get a knockout here against the durable Marc-Andre Barriault. I say that because how Marc-Andre Barriault fights, very flat-footed, walks forward, makes it a grimy boxing, dirty boxing match. Likes to get in the clinch, do dirty boxing. Has solid power in the hands, but he's more of a grinder. He's a grimy fighter on the feet, and I think that kind of plays into Joe Pyfer's strengths. The man has power. He has the wealth on it, or not wealth, but he has the age on his side as 27 years old. He's coming off a loss to Jack Hermanson. I think Joe Pyfer learns a lot from that loss, his first loss in the UFC, and he comes out here, he makes a statement in front of the crowd, and kind of gets his confidence back. I do like a finish here, and Marc-Andre Barriault is very durable, but again, I don't think Marc-Andre Barriault can take Joe Pyfer's punches for 15 minutes. So I don't think it's going to take that much for Joe Pyfer to get Marc-Andre Barriault out of here with the power that Joe Pyfer has. Again, Joe Pyfer is not going to make things, kind of just confuse Joe Pyfer with the style. He's very flat-footed, kind of walks forward, and I think he's going to walk forward into some power punches from Joe Pyfer. So give me Joe Pyfer knockout in the second round. Now let's get into the main card. Let's get into the pay-per-view card of UFC 303. First matchup, we have Ian Machado Gary versus Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page is in here on his second fight in the UFC. He's coming off a great performance against Kevin Holland. Ian Gary's coming in here beating Geoff Neal. And I think that performance against Neal for Gary was a very mature. It was a very matured performance from Gary. He was very methodical. He kind of slowed down the heavy boxer that's Neal. I think we kind of just saw a more mature performance and a mature kind of growing fighter, Ian Machado Gary, in that fight. Yes, it was lackluster. Yes, it was this and that, but I think we're seeing more and more of Ian Gary and what he's capable of skill-wise. I like Ian Gary a lot. Maybe not so much outside of the octagon, but the skill set inside of the octagon, I'm a fan of. And I think, he's 26 years old. He's traveling all around the world, going to different gyms if he's not being kicked out of one. But he's a growing fighter, and he's still young, and he's a sponge, and he's just soaking up game right now. And I like what I see, man. But Michael Venom Page is what a beast. What a beast. I had him beating Kevin Holland, but I didn't think it was going to be like that. That was my first Michael Venom Page fight, full fight that I've seen of his. And I was surprised. I was excited. It was great. It was a great fight. It was a great performance from Michael Venom Page. But this is just a total different fight from Kevin Holland. And I think we are going to see I think we're gonna see a lot more of what Ian Gary has in his arsenal. I think he has the tools to kind of slow down on Michael Venom Page. Venom Page is very, side stance, very in and out. He explodes in very fast, and then lands punches here and there, and and then he's out again, and then he's kind of playing this possum of like it out and then explodes in, stuff like that. But I think Ian Gary can find the timing, get the rhythm down of a Michael Venom Page, and I think he uses clinch. I think he uses some clinch work. I think we see some takedowns attempts coming from Ian Gary in this fight. I just think Ian Gary, he hasn't shown much, but I think he has the tools to slow down the pace of a Michael Venom Page and kind of make this a very methodical fight. This fight, I was hoping for some fireworks from this fight, but this fight could be very boring. This could be the fight that we don't want from both of these guys, because I can see this kind of be a very drawn out decision win for each fighter. I know Ian Gary has been rocked almost every fight that he's had in this UFC career so far, but I think he's growing. I think he's learning. I think he is just finding his groove at 26 years old, and I think he has the tools to slow down MVP. So give me Ian Gary by decision. Next up, we have a women's fight. We have Mayra Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson. I'm going to make this really quick. Give me Bueno Silva to win by submission. I didn't like what I saw from Bueno Silva in her last fight against Rocky, the Raquel Pennington. Maybe she was sick. Maybe she was not feeling 100% going into that Raquel Pennington fight up for the belt. But I just did not like. I did not like what I saw from Silva. Kind of laying and praying and kind of just looking for the submission just to win. I just think Silva's better than Macy Chiasson kind of everywhere in this fight. You want to go stand up, Silva has the power, the speed, and more explosive. If you want to go to the ground, good luck, Macy. So give me Silva by submission. I don't know what round, but give me under 1.5 rounds of work for Silva. I'm going to go submission, though, is the method of victory. Next fight, we have Anthony Smith versus his new opponent. We have Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Smith. This was supposed to be Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. And then it turned into Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg. And then it turned into Ulberg versus Smith. And now we got Smith versus Roman Dolidze. So this fight is just all kinds of bad. But we're here. We're here with Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Roman Dolidze. Dolidze moving up in weight class. He is a middleweight, moving up to light heavyweight. So we'll see. We'll see how he looks with the short notice fight and him with more, 20 pounds on his frame. I'm sure he's loving not to cut the weight, but how is Roman going to look with that extra 20 pounds on him? Roman has good grappling. He has great power, but I think Roman Dolidze kind of punches himself out here, and Anthony Smith capitalizes with grappling, and I think Anthony Smith gets a submission win here, like he did with Victor Petrino in his last fight. Petrino kind of gassed himself out. He fatigued. Anthony Smith took good advantage, and he got the submission win. I could definitely see this happening in this fight too. Give me Anthony Smith to, get another win under the belt and go on a 2-fight winning streak, and he beats Roman Dolidze by submission in early third round, maybe maybe late second round. let's get into this new fight that was added, the new co-main event for UFC 303. We have Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. This is my favorite fight on the card, and man, guys, I think this is a wake up call, and this fight kind of reminds me of Robert Whittaker and Alex Skarov last week. People were riding high on the young fighter, the kind of new fresh face in the division, getting this big look, getting the big name in Robert Whittaker. Lopez now getting the big look with Brian Ortega, and people were just kind of riding high on the young killer and like the younger guy with less miles on his career in his body. But I think Robert Whittaker, I mean, I don't think about this, but Robert Whittaker reminded y'all. And I think we're going to get the same thing with this, with Brian Ortega reminding y'all what he is all about. You want to go to the ground? I'm T-City. Let's go. I'm ready. And with Brian Ortega getting better and better, improving in his stand-up ever since he came back and fought Korean Zombie, this man's stand-up is matching up more with his jiu-jitsu. Do you guys not remember what he just did to Yair Rodriguez? I mean, he looked like a step ahead of Yair Rodriguez wherever that fight went. Yes, Yair, he landed some strikes. He landed not some, but he did do his thing on the feet. But for Brian Ortega to look like that against Yair on the feet and then to submit him, jeez, man, it's hard for me to go against the vet. And I hear that Ortega's kind of looking forward to moving up in weight after this fight to 155. Diego Lopez is great, but I just think on short notice, I'm taking Brian Ortega to upset the young lion here. And Diego Lopez will be back. His career's not over after this fight, but I want to see Diego Lopez on a full camp. I'm tired of these short notice fights for Diego Lopez, because I think on a full camp, Diego Lopez makes Brian Ortega look like a rookie. But with this here, I don't know why. I just feel some type of way about seeing an underdog plus number by Brian Ortega. Give me the underdog. Give me the vet. Give me Brian Ortega to pull off the upset in the co-main event here. And the method is, give me submission. Give me like second round submission for Brian Ortega. And now to move into the main event, we have Alex Pereira defending his light heavyweight belt against Jiri Prochazka in the rematch. In the first fight, I did rewatch the first fight over again between these guys, and man, Jiri Prochazka was touching this man up. I mean, he was landing a lot. He was landing more than I remember, and kind of surprised. And Alex was kind of biting on the feints from Jiri Prochazka. But the chin still holds up at light heavyweight for Alex Pereira here. He has a solid chin. He can eat the shots. He can take them. But Jiri Prochazka, it's so frustrating with Jiri because he doesn't move his head well. And he just leaves his chin exposed. And you just don't want to do that with a guy who has this kind of power in Alex Pereira and the left hook. I'm going to take the champ again. Maybe Jiri does go a little bit of the wrestling route. Maybe we see some takedown attempts from the challenger here to kind of mix things up, because this is a rematch, and I maybe we see these guys bring some adjustments, bring some new things to the rematch. But I don't know. I don't get that type of feel from these guys to bring in new stuff. I'd be surprised if we see some takedown attempts from Jiri Prochazka, though. Give me the champ. I just feel like the champ has this aura about him right now, ever since that UFC 300 performance, and kind of before that, actually. The aura and his name, his brand is just building, and I think he's the face of the UFC right now, Poatan. And I just think his stardom just keeps on growing, and then I don't know what's after this fight. Maybe he goes up to heavyweight at the end of the year and fights for the belt up there. Or I think this is what I think should happen. I think Alex Pereira wins this fight, and then he fights Magomed Ankalaev in November or December. Big card. But I'm actually a fan of Magomed Ankalaev. I like Ankalaev. I know he doesn't get a good rep on MMA Twitter, but I'm a fan of Ankalaev. I think Ankalaev is the hardest fight in this division for Alex Pereira, because he does have that threat of takedowns and submissions as well. And I think that's kind of the way of going with Alex Pereira, to test that ground game, make him tired, make him work in the grappling, and then kind of just see what happens from there. But I think Alex Pereira just has the power to end this fight, and I think he gets another knockout win over Jiri Prochazka. And Prochazka is coming off a war against Rakic at UFC 300, which was like 3 months ago. And Rakic was beating that man's legs up, bro. Like, the legs were just getting torn up. So, again, I don't think Jiri Prochazka either has an answer for the leg kicks of Alex Pereira or the calf kicks. So, give me the champ to remain and still the champ at the weight class of light heavyweight. And, yeah, that is my picks. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 underdogs on this card. That's 4 picks. So I got Pereira, I got Ortega, dog number 1, Anthony Smith, dog number 2, Bueno Silva, Ian Gary, Joe Pyfer, Andre Feely, Charles Jourdain, Payne Talbot, Michelle Watterson Gomez, dog number 3, Andre Arlovsky, dog number 4, Ray Tassura, and then Ricky Simone. Those are all my winners for this event that's happening on Saturday, UFC 303, going down to Las Vegas. This is the new channel that I will be releasing my card breakdowns. I usually have a co-host here with me, but I did mess up. This is the second time I'm recording this, so he's not here. But I will have my co-host with me next time for the next breakdown. But yeah, hopefully you guys can trail me on these picks. Hopefully I make you guys some money with my picks. But there's a lot of straight money line picks here on this card. There's a lot of value in the dogs on this card. And yeah, guys, hopefully I do enough to earn your sub with this card breakdown. Comment your picks down below. Let me know how you're feeling about these fights. And yeah, let's just interact. I will put my link to my Twitter and my Instagram in description. I do put all my picks on my social medias. So yeah, I'm doing okay with my picks so far this year. Last year I did great with my picks. So yeah, I post all my picks for each fight card, not just the main fights, the pay-per-view fights. Every single Saturday, I post my picks on my social medias. So go check it out. Hopefully, subscribe, follow me on my social medias. And thank you guys again for checking me out.
Making the kills to pay the bills. You see the spots we living in. Tried your best to recreate me, but we not equivalent. Everybody here fugazi, all on our asses and run shit like conditioning, yeah. Hop in that thing and I skirt. Bad bitch, got my hand in the skirt.